Other edition of Beyond the Headlines. It's the final conversation of the year on the final day of 2025, a year that tested Nigeria's democracy, stretched federal power, rattled political alliances, and forced Nigerians to ask hard questions about the future of their country. From emergency rule in Rivers State to a coup scare that shook the nation, from the unprecedented U.S. strikes on Nigerian soil to mass defections that are now redrawing the political map ahead of 2027. 2025 was no doubt a busy year on the political front. The ruling All Progressives Congress entered the year with about 21 states, but we saw 6 high-profile defections this year from Delta to Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, Enugu, Rivers, and Taraba. The party now heads into 2026 governing 27 states, a remarkable consolidation of power that critics have now famously described as an attempt at a one-party state. And today, we witnessed yet another historic realignment. Former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, alongside Southeast political heavyweights, Senators Victor Ume, Tony Nwoye, Eyinaya Barabe, former Imo Governor Achike Udenwa, and others formally joined the Coalition African Democratic Congress at an event that took place earlier today in Enugu. The governor of Abia State, Alex Oti, however, says he chose to remain in the Labour Party. This moment signals what many call the emergence of a potentially new third force as Nigeria heads toward 2027. All through this year, we have interrogated power, governance, security, the economy, rights, and reforms. We spoke to ministers, governors, lawmakers, economists, activists, and political actors across divides. Tonight, we close the year by putting politics itself under the spotlight. What shaped it, what strained it, and what indeed lies ahead as Nigeria inches closer to yet another election cycle. Joining me for this important year-end conversation is the national youth leader of Nigeria's ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, and chairman, governing board of the Federal Medical Center, Abeokuta, Dayo Israel, who joins us live from Toronto. Do you guys call it Toronto or Toronto? How is it pronounced, Dayo Israel?
Anyone works differently. Happy New Year in advance.
Indeed. Thank you so much.
Congratulations on the last show for the year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an important edition for us. I'm sure you are following closely developments back at home. ADC just officially got one of the most sensational presidential candidates in 2023 into its fold. It's one of the biggest stories on New Year Eve as we count down to pre-election year 2026. What does this say about opposition strategy and the confidence of your party ahead of the big one in 2027?
I think, Nifemi, the taste is in the pudding. And the year 2025 has been an eventful year for Nigerians. Yes, it started as a challenging year, but it's ending on a glorious note. A lot of wins for us as a party, a lot of reforms that the president has been able to introduce that is now beginning to yield fruit. We're grateful to God that we're able to recover, the children that were kidnapped mid-year, a lot of reforms around the security infrastructure. So a lot of progress have been made, and a lot of foundations have also been laid that will bear fruit in 2026. So as a party, we're excited about next year and even 2027, because from 2023, when the president got in, he focused a lot on reforms, fuel subsidy reform, dollar subsidy reform, forex reforms, and all of that. And initially, the pain was very much, but now people are beginning to trust the system. They're beginning to trust the administration. The stock exchange market is beginning to have confidence, for example, in the economy, because we have a stable naira, that rocks around between 1,400 to 1,600. So there's a beginning to yield stability in the economy. Security will make some gains in the last 2 months, also with support from external actors and all of that. But because of the resolve of the president to ensure that Nigerians can have a better year, the price of rice, for example, has gone down. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not, I think it's about 1 million now. Have already been able to access the student loan. So a lot of the things that the president started in 2015 and 2023 has begun to yield fruit, begin to make sense to a lot of Nigerians. So next year for us is excitement because we believe that we would see more result and more impact in the sacrifices that Nigerians have had to make over the last 2 years. And so about people moving and the campaign, the reality is that we are excited. We're excited because this year we've seen about 6 sitting governors who have won election in their state, who are doing some transformational work in their state, who have moved to our party. So we're not really perturbed about a former governor that is the campaign to another party or a former presidential candidate that is the campaign to. We have a sitting president. We have 28, sitting governors. Not to talk of innumerable numbers of former governors who have also come into our party. We had a NEC meeting at the Villa just a couple of days ago. We've seen the turnout of people who have aligned with our party at the National Assembly. Just some days ago, we received about 15 members of the House of Reps, about 3 or 4 senators, serving senators who have also moved to our party. And these are guys who have won election in their state, who have political capital, who can deliver their polling unit, their state, their senatorial district, their federal constituency for the party. So for us, we're excited about what is to come. But more importantly, we're excited about what the next year is going to mean for Nigerians. More money in their pocket, more financial stability, more economic growth. Both micro and macroeconomic indices are going to, move upward in the interest of Nigeria next year.
That shortly, but we've also heard about very important political decisions that will be made as we enter into the new year. Some APC stakeholders have already started insinuating that Peter Obi could be Atiku's running mate in 2027. I don't know what crystal ball they're looking into, but if you look at the numbers from 2023, President Tinubu had under 9 million. Atiku and Obi got 13 million plus votes. The opposition clearly has strength if united. With Obi now decamping to the ADC today, is your party worried about a more coordinated challenge in 2027?
So let me give you an example. Part of the the propaganda of 2023 was that the president was sick, the president was unfit for office, was that he was incoherent, and was that there were so many blackmails against the president, there were so many attacks against the president, there were so many lies against the president in 2023, and there were a lot of coordinated attack against the president. Not just from external actors, but also even from his own party. So his own party, including the cabals in the Villa at that time, who were doing their best to ensure. Some of them, for example, worked with the governor of Central Bank to ensure that cash was not available for Nigerians to even go to the market. People were dying in their villages because they didn't make cash available. Petrol, there was a fuel crisis then, there was a cash crisis, and there were a lot of other factors that they used to try to limit the victory of the president. But above all, he was able to come out victorious with over 8 million votes. Now, Nigerians have seen in the last 2 years that this is a president that is about the people. It's a president that is focused on development and reforms. A president that is building the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road. The president that is building the Sokoto-Badagry Expressway. The president has been building a lot of infrastructures in the north, deregulating the economy, and making a lot of tough decisions. Nigerians have better and stronger trust in the president than many people who are contesting for presidency today that have not been tried with hardship. Many things that the president has been able to do and take bold decisions and get away with. Many people will not have been able to do that because they don't have the sagacity, the strength, the courage, and the confidence that the president has to be able to take decisions on behalf of the Nigerian people. So if you feel that the president got 8 million at that time, he would have gotten more at that time, if not because of those attacks against his person, both internal and external attack against his pedigree, against his competence and performance. But now, Nigerians themselves are beginning to see the progress that Nigeria is having. Yes, we have challenges. We have challenges, pockets of challenges here and there, but they now have better, stronger trust in a president. I remember President Tinubu is like a wartime president that people now believe that more people are going to support him now than ever did in 2023.
Well, I guess time will tell whether or not your position is true. We'll find out in the coming months and in the coming year. But the Abia State Governor, Alex Oti, okay, I can hear you talk. I can see you talk, but I can't hear you.
Okay, so are you going to say that the young students, for example, who
Mm.
have been struggling to go to university, millions of them, who couldn't go to university because of financial challenges, who are now able to access our student loan, the people who are benefiting from our CNG intervention are not going to want to see continuity of the work that we're doing.
No, I
So
hear you,
people have
Mr.
seen that the
Israel.
president
I'm
means
just
well for
saying
Nigeria.
that I hear you clearly. I'm just saying that time will tell. I mean, all of us will see how all of this will play out in the coming days and whether or not voters, the way they think align with your position at this time. But I want us to look at what's happening for the ADC. The Abia State Governor, Alex Oti, mentioned that he's still with the Labour Party. He wants to see things through. Hopefully, he can rescue the party and that is not following Peter Obi this time. That must bring some relief to the APC, right?
I think we're excited because we're praying that Alex Otti comes back home. He's a progressive. So wherever he is right now is there because of circumstances. And we believe that by the grace of the Almighty, he will come to his rightful home, to the progressive family, where he can really achieve his dream, connect to the center, and be able to achieve a lot of things for the people of Abia State. He's a very great guy. He has a lot of great ambitions. He has a lot of great impact that is creating there. And he should be in the progressive fold, connect to the center, where he can make a lot of better impact in the interest of the Abia people.
Coming back home, talking about Alex Otti coming back home, you guys already received about 6 governors this year. I mean, your supporters say it's a reflection of confidence in the ruling party, but it's a far cry from what the opposition is saying. They've accused the APC of manipulation, of coercion, and a threat to multi-party democracy. Which is it exactly?
So the reality is that you don't have a good product until people not to be attracted to it. The people have seen the passion of the president. Under President Tinubu, there's no state in Nigeria that is struggling to pay salaries. Under President Tinubu, there's no state in Nigeria that is struggling to be able to, provide the basic welfare for its workers. They have more money and more resources because of tough decision that the president has made. So the camping of these governors to our party is not just a vote of confidence, even on the APC, but a vote on confidence on the man that is at the steering wheel of driving Nigeria to progress. And they know that he's a man that is sincere and genuine. Look at what he said, for example, recently at the NEC meeting at the Villa. He said to them, we need to ensure that we put money in the hands of the local government chairman. And we're going to follow the Supreme Court judgment to ensure that the local government chairman receives the direct allocation. And don't forget, the yam is in my hand, the knife is in my hand. If you don't do it willingly, I will ensure that we follow the Supreme Court position to the letter. That is a president that wants to leave a legacy that is not moved about election, but by the impact that he leaves on the generation. So when you see that kind of president, you want to rally behind him. You want to be on the same ship with him because you know that when push comes to shove, he's going to defend, he's going to stand by you because he stands with the Nigerian people. So
And
they are moving to come and join our party, not because
yes.
there's anybody compelling them, but because they see the light and the impact of the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And they believe that they need to join hand with him to be able to ensure that development gets to their state aggressively. Because the president is an aggressive reformer. He's doing from day one. He did not even wait for 24 hours, say subsidy is gone. You know that he's a man that is focused on achieving the best that he can within the short time.
I hear you, and it's a popular opinion that I've heard, constantly from the progressives. But there's also another perception to this, and that's the accusation that Mr. President's interest is to make Nigeria a one-party state. He's also personally denied that. But as national youth leader, how do you reassure young Nigerians that, political competition is still alive, active, and meaningful in Nigeria today?
Mr. President is a reformer, so that is a Democrat. You know him. He's been part of pro-democracy movement for many years. He was part of NADECO. He was there to fight for Nigeria against military rule. So he will not get into government and want to become what he has fought against. So get that very clearly. That president as a person is an ideological leader who is not after everybody being. And you don't have to be a progressive member of our party to actually be an aligner with the vision of the president. So people like Governor Charles Soludo remains in his ABGA. The election came, the president ensured that the election in Anambra State was free and fair. And with that election, ABGA, which is interestingly another progressive party or progressive Grand Alliance, I think there was a joke in Anambra that progressives are working together. Remains in his party. We have other governors. We're not, imposing anybody, compelling anybody to come and join our party. But if you, as a matter of fact, many of them want to come. The president is even restraining some people and saying, not yet, please, just, you don't have to, and that's the reality. A lot of governors are saying they want to be part. They are struggling to want to be part of our party. And if information serves me right, I also have an understanding that there are even some people and the president has said, you don't have to come now, please. So it's not about bringing everybody into the progressive party. It's about people understanding the values of the progressive ideology, which is what the president stands for. And that's what also, as you mentioned, as the youth wing of the party, we are also aligning with that. And that's why this January, for example, we're starting our Progressive School of Politics, Leadership, and Statecraft. We also want to raise the next generation of progressive leaders who understand what it means to be progressive. What is our progressive ideology? What does progressivism stand for? What is different between being a progressive, a socialist, a Democrat, and all of that? So that's one of the projects that we're doing at the youth wing of the ruling APC. It's a fellowship that was started in January.
It is a little bit difficult to believe that our parties have ideology, though, with the ease with which we've seen politicians move, in the past decade.
So that's what we are trying to entrench in the next generation. So the youth wing under my leadership is starting this new school for progressive politics, leadership, and statecraft to raise the next generation. I was just in China with about 20 young people in November. We went to understudy their party school in China. We've done the same in other countries, in Morocco and all of that. And we want to focus a lot on building ideological leaders who understand what it means to be a progressive, so that even as you come into our party next year, for example, we're going to be aggressively training young people in our party, even many of the people who are decamping into our party, to understand what it means to be a progressive and those values of progressive ideologies, which will then, reflect in the policy of our administration and in the leadership of our government.
Let's touch on a few other things that highlighted 2025. The suspension of Senator Natasha Akpoto-Aduah, as you are aware, sparked some national debate, especially because there are just about 4 female senators out of 109. And there's also the strong perception that certain allegations against the Senate president did not get a fair review. Do you agree that Senator Natasha's suspension brought the Nigerian Senate into disrepute in 2025?
I believe that the whole issue between Senator Natasha and the National Assembly was a sore taste, in the whole political process. But our democracy is evolving, our governance is evolving, and I believe that lessons have been learned on both sides on how to better handle issues amicably. And I don't think it was just Natasha that had a suspension. I think Senator Ningi also had his own suspension, but that's the beauty of democracy. You iterate, you learn from the experiences and all of that. Nobody is perfect on all sides. And what is important is that lessons have been learned in ways to better manage relationships, because these things also have ripple effects and impact, on how things are being handled. On even political decision making and all of that. So it's important to also reflect on some of these things. But this year, we've seen a lot of things happen, and lessons learned politically across political parties, across various leadership, in the parliament, and all of that. And I think that, moving on next year, lessons have been learned and things will be better in handling those kind of things.
Yes, because, there are fundamental questions like, should legislative rules ever override public perception of fairness and representation? And what does this mean for women folk representative moving forward? But let's touch on the declaration of emergency rule in Rivers State, which was unprecedented in its scope. Critics did say it crossed the constitutional red line. We've heard supporters say, it saved Rivers State from collapse in the real sense of it. In hindsight, there are conversations around whether what happened strengthened or weakened Nigeria's federal democracy. Of course, the Supreme Court already upheld the president's powers to suspend elected officials under emergency rule. But are we comfortable with the precedent that this sets ahead of future political crises? Governor Fubara eventually has now defected to the APC. Looking back at what is currently happening now with the renewed infighting between the governor and members of the House of Assembly, the governor and his benefactor, the FCT minister, how do you respond to accusations that that emergency rule became a political lever rather than a neutral, stabilizing tool in the sense of it?
So statecraft is very dicey. You need to understand that there are many dynamics to leadership and statecraft. So there are decisions sometimes that leaders have to make in the best interest of the greater good and in the best interest of national security and the country. So everything that the president did at that time in the Fubara Wike case and the State House of Assembly was in the best interest of democracy. So remember that when Jonathan was vice president, and there was also the Yaradua matter. There was something that David Marx, introduced. That was the doctrine of necessity, and so you can say that what happened in Rivers was not just about emergency rule, but was implied based on the doctrine of necessity to be able to save the democracy, to also salvage, the position of not just the government, but also the parliament and democracy in Rivers State. I'm careful to speak too much about this matter because it's still an ongoing issue. We've seen a lot of back and forth between various actors and stakeholders in the last couple of days. But I would say that our democracy is growing. We're learning from it. That was a big point for us this year. But as you said, the Supreme Court affirmed the president's position. The president took his position based on the doctrine of necessity to be able to salvage democracy. So it strengthened democracy rather than actually hurting democracy. Because if at that time the president also didn't invoke the democracy rule, the emergency rule, what would have happened is that the House of Assembly would most likely have suspended the governor or impeached the governor. It would not be able to come back into office today. And a lot of things would have spiraled out of control in that regard. So I'm sure that if I was Governor Fubara, and maybe that was part of what also inspired him to align with the president and the party, to say if the president can go out of his way above and beyond to ensure that democracy is preserved in Rivers State, it might as well want to align with the ideology and the mindset of the president, And that's why I keep saying that the president sees a lot of what a lot of people don't feel, because you get access to information, you get national security briefing. And so many times when he makes decisions, we don't understand those decisions, but he understands because he's taking those decisions based on information available to him, some of which will not be available to us.
I understand you. We have to go now. Correct me if I'm wrong. As National Youth Leader, you're a member of the National Working Committee of your party, right?
By the grace of God,
so perhaps you can.
The National Executive Committee.
So you can enlighten us, because you have given Fubara 001. You heard Wike say 001 doesn't mean that he's the leader of the party. They ask him, what do you mean? A governor who defects is supposed to be number one. He said, who is the leader of the APC in Lagos? And all the interviewers started laughing. Do you think Fubara moving to APC gives him an automatic rerun ticket, which was highly debated when that peace pact was signed, a few months earlier?
So one thing that I can say for sure, I wouldn't go into the conversations around automatic tickets. The people make the decisions. And so I wouldn't go into that. The party members would go to Congress, would go to primaries and all of that. And discuss. Of course, there are also a lot of horse trading that can happen. It's too early to come into what mode of primaries that we're going to adopt in the election. But what I can say is that in the policies of our party, the All Progressive Congress, the governor of the state is the leader of the party in that state. So I'll give you an example. In Akwa Ibom State, and this was one of the reasons why Governor Mweno didn't come in on time, because we had to clear the gray areas. So it was between the Senate president being from Akwa Ibom State and Governor Mweno being the governor of the state. And it was made clear that Governor Mweno was or is the leader of the party in Anambra State, even though the Senate president comes from there. And the Senate president, even when he spoke at the NEC recently, was saying it continuously that the leader of the party in my state and all of that. So automatically, Governor Fubara coming.
Governor Fubara. is indeed
is
001.
statutorily
Yes,
of APC in Rivers State.
I hear you.
The issue about election and ticket is another matter.
Mr. Israel, we should continue this conversation in the new year. Thank you so much for talking to us, National Youth Leader of the APC, Chairman Governing Board of Federal Medical Center, Abeokuta Dayo Israel. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, as we close out 2025, one thing is clear. This was a year that forced Nigeria to look hard at itself, its power, its structures, its alliances, its democracy, and even its future. All through this year, on Beyond the Headlines, we've had conversations that mattered on governance, security, the economy, democracy, rights, and reform, because democracy doesn't grow in silence. To all of our viewers, we'd like to say a big thank you for your trust, your engagement, and your commitment to staying informed and asking hard questions with us. 2026 is already knocking, and it promises even louder politics with some sharper choices and higher stakes that we're looking forward to. Until then, I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Happy New Year, and thank you for staying Beyond the Headlines.